So were Africans here in the United States before Native Americans? That's a question we're going to answer today. Take a look at this.
Did Africans arrive in the Americas before Columbus? In 1311, Mansa Abubakari II abdicated the throne to Mansa Musa, popularly known as the wealthiest person in history. He then set sail from the coast of Senegambia with the intention of reaching the other side of the Atlantic. It is believed that he arrived in 1312, 180 years before Columbus. What? Prior to this, Abubakari II had sent several expeditions to go on this exploration mission, but years went by and most of the ships did not return. The captain of the one ship that made it back explained to the king that the ocean was vast and unforgivable, and many of the other ships were taken by the harsh currents, but the king did not believe him. Abubakari then decided to attempt this voyage himself. He designed 1,000 ships on the coast of Senegambia with the assistance of shipbuilders, doctors, sailors, and navigators. Every ship was attached to a supply ship, so the number of ships amounted to 2,000. In order to last his team for 2 years, 1,000 ships were filled with food, water, medicines, and fruit. Abubakari II then abdicated his throne to Mansa Musa and set sail, never to return. He is thought to have arrived at the other end of the Atlantic in the year 1312. How could this be possible in Abubakari's time? The Atlantic is controlled from a scientific point of view by two currents, which typically remain the same regardless of month or season. There are the Canary Current and the Guinea Current. These currents are strong enough to drag a ship from West Africa all the way to the Americas. There is also evidence of or signs of African presence in the Americas at the end of these currents.
If you are raised and schooled in the United States of America, and you have gone to school for 13 years, K through 12, and you aren't a racist, you weren't listening. Now, people really resent it when I say that, but wait a minute, folks. Who do we say invented everything? Discovered everything, did all the writing, did all the reading? People. Eventually, maybe you'll actually say when the teacher says Christopher Columbus discovered America and he met those Indians here. There were no Indians here when Christopher Columbus got here. There were people from Africa who had been here for over 10,000 years before Christopher Columbus was born. It's time for us to teach our children the truth. And it's time for us to say, okay, we're going to talk about Black Lives Matter. People, everybody trace your DNA back as far as you can trace it. And you're going to find out that every one of you has in their DNA some DNA from a country in Africa. What? That's a fact.
Yeah, my name is Earl Tooley. I am from the Navajo Nation. I'm of the Tutnisanitan, born for the Tohiaglenis. The African people, those with African roots, we call them Nakite, meaning not black, not dark, but night. People who secure our night and take care of our ancestors, whose stars sparkle in the night. We call them that as they are the caretakers of us in the nighttime, as it covers our den, as it covers our sheep camp, as it covers the various places that we do come from. So our brothers and sisters from Africa, they have a vital role in our daily lives.
And that is where we find some of the oldest artifacts of African people on the American hemisphere. After that came the Clovis Folsom people. The Clovis Folsom people are another African. And they came here and they mated with and joined forces with the Khoisan people. And then the third migration were the Algonquin. The Algonquin also were a melanated people, but had been impacted by climate change. And then came the Inuit that would come through and come up through North America, and they're derogatorily called the Eskimo. And then the fifth and final group of people came in the largest amount of numbers, and these were the people that are called the Asiatic. And these Asiatic coming down came in out of the north, and this is the people that are being given credit for being Native American, and they're not.
You know, isn't it amazing what education really does? Isn't it amazing what you learn, how you free yourself when you're educated or you find the truth? See, it's one thing to be educated. You can be educated in lies. But it's another thing when you're educated in the truth. Isn't it amazing that once the truth is spoken, it makes a lot of sense? Right? We've been lied to for centuries. Lied to by basically the education that is taught to us today, which most of us learn, which is a Western education, European education that most of us learn. And when we start to uncover these truths about who we are, where we come from, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. You know, there's no one alive today that will argue that black people were the first people to be created on this planet. There's no one that will argue today that black people were. Those black people were Africans. Africans were the first race of people on this entire planet. Africans were the first original people on this planet. Everyone came from Africa. At least what is known as Africa today. It wasn't called Africa back in the days. You know, that's another term given to us and given to that region by Europeans. But that region that is known as Africa today, that whole continent, was where the origin of life began. Everyone that we see today originated out of us. So it's amazing that Africans were in this land called the Americas, the United States, Canada, right? All the areas today that's vastly dominated by white people and Western people. Africans graced this place. They were here first, right? Even before the Native Americans even showed up or even came out, because they came out of us. They came out of our people. You heard that one man said that they call the black people Naketia, which means the night people, right? These are the ones that are the keepers of the ancestors of the night. So that means Africans were before their generation, before their own people. So they give homage to black people and say black people are the ones that keep their own ancestors, because black people were there before their own ancestors. Even he recognizes that. It makes sense, right? Think about it for a second. If black people were the first ones to grace this entire earth, if black people were the first people of the Creator, then it makes sense that every part of the world today that you are seeing people, black people were there first. Africans were there first. Africans were there first, before the even transatlantic slavery, right? Africans were on this land. You know, you have people on the internet who go around, you know, black people who go around calling themselves Native Americans. Now, while they may have a version of that story to be true, they still are distorted. Because even while they may say, oh, you know, we were here first, the part they miss out in that whole story is that, yeah, the Africans were here first. You come from Africa. Do you get what I'm saying? Native Americans came from Africa. They are a subset of African people. Even they recognize that. And, you know, and when you find our people who are denying themselves or denying that they come from the original man and woman, then you almost have to ask the question, okay, if you're a Native American, then you're part of the Native Americans who enslaved African people. So you're going to have to take credit and responsibility on that one too. You can't claim that you're from Native America. You're part of the Native American group, because Native Americans were known to have African slaves who came through the transatlantic slavery. They were known to have African slaves. They got some slaves who were brought here from Africa. So if you're claiming that you're part of that tribe and that group, and you're not from Africa, which I don't know how you got to that point, but then you also have to claim the fact that your group enslaved African people. But we know that is partly also the truth, because Africans from the continent, from the cradle of life, graced this part known as the Americas including the United States, before even the Native Americans, before Columbus came here, or so-called discovered this place. Which is why the largest group of people on the planet, right, are black people. You won't find another race larger than black people. Black people are the largest on the planet. Black people are the largest on the planet. I mean, you can go far back as the ages and time of Timbuktu, the oldest university, Egypt, the oldest universities, where the Greeks would send people to Egypt to go learn and study, because Africa, where Egypt is located, was where education, civilization came out of. Now, that is news to a lot of people today, because Europeans who are somehow today dominating in power made sure they destroyed all the architects, all the archives, all the scrolls. I mean, Alexander the Great, when he conquered and did his thing, it's a known fact, documented, that he went to Egypt and he destroyed all the books. They killed and murdered all the Egyptians. Rewrote history and plugged themselves into it, and forced everyone to start from a point to begin looking at history. And so a lot of people, when they look at the history book that is given to us today, what they see with Africans or black people is they had chains on their necks, and they were slaves, and they were servants to Europeans. Prior to their so-called history, there are Africans who were kings and queens and ruled the earth, to where even those who were pale-skinned were going to them for food, water, and for survival. Black people ruled the earth. So it's not a far-fetched thing, and historians will tell you this, that Africans were all over the place. Africans were settlers. They were travelers. Amazing what you learn and how free you become when you study history. Amazing the light bulbs that go up, right, when you learn history. And I think it's important for black people to know this part of their history, because when you know that part of your history, you know exactly that you were the creator of life. You gave birth to everything else that existed, and not the other way around, because the other way around tells you that you were the inferior race and everyone else is superior, and so you should be subservient, and that's how history has been written. And the reason why that is because those who are in power today want you to forget that you were the dominant race on this planet for generations and thousands of years. So that his part of history is destroyed, is forbidden, is written up as conspiracy theory. But when you go back as far and you look at carbon dating and you look at the origin of civilization and the origin of man, you find out the origin of man and the man that graced this earth. Even they say it, and they can't even lie that part. It's a dark-skinned man and woman, people that look like me and you watching this. It's amazing that when you learn the truth and you see the facts, you realize that we Africans were here before Native Americans, the Spanish people, and white folks. So the last one to be here are white folks. The last ones to own this place or to even are white people. They're the newest ones here. But they'll tell you today that they're the ones that found this place. They'll tell you today that they're the ones that discovered this land, and everybody else needs to go. You're an illegal here. You don't belong here. This is not your land. No, this is your land. This is your place. You have more rights to it as any other one who's claiming it today. Because our people were here first, before anyone else. It's amazing when we learn the truth. And I implore you, Black people, that you plug into your history. You learn your history. You learn where you come from. You learn who you are. You learn what contributions you made to this part of the world, to every part of the world, because there's no part of the world today that didn't have a Black person's feet touch the land or the soil there, because we were the original settlers on this planet. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Please like the video, share the content, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all next time.
Det finns ingen annan där som kan stå här by my side, oh why. Sättet du rör på det får mig att dö för dig, baby. För de här yardis, de vill ju bara dra ner oss. Men du är fett och vanlig. På det jag lägger all min tid och jag vill ha det. Du får mig känna safety. Jag kan nog leda dig, baby.